Saratoga.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Great.
I would like to welcome you to the Educational Programs and Services Committee meeting. I am your chair, Mike Elliott. We are joined by Emily McCormick, JP Prego, Dana Hipser, and Melanie Cunningham, our president. We have got, who all do we have here today? We have Farina's here today, Dr. Farina, Carol Giblin, Amy Coyle, Kim Bass, Sarah Rothmel, James Roth, and special guest star, Dr. Carter. All right, so now that we've done that, let's have, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda, or the minutes from our last meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a first and a second. Do I have any discussion?
These were some very detailed.
Right?
Lisa.
Yikes.
Good job. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
That's,
Slash the
that
president.
is a pleasure.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's nice to know where you're at, too.
Mhm.
You know, there's benefits of that, too.
Absolutely.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Let's move on to kindergarten registration. Who's got that one for us?
Apparently, some school district needs a superintendent. So that's me. This is just informational, but I did want to show you, we've talked a lot about the work we've done with our website and trying to better educate our families about what's going on. And kindergarten registration is going to kick off in March. And so you will see, we have been communicating it, but it goes out in the newspaper. We include it in the Friday blast, but kindergarten registration, see how pretty, oh look. We have our first session for kindergarten registration on March 6th. We always stagger that registration to happen all day and into the evening, and so we have 2 sessions in March. Everything is online, but this year we tried to give parents a timeline of events and resources. So if anybody asks, or during our reports, if we can just make a plug for kindergarten registration online, then they come in and do the rest of the process with us. And you can't be registered until you're actually done the whole process. And that's something that is very confusing to our families. So we will continue to put updates. Our elementary principals are working to also provide resources to families with incoming kindergartners, like Get Set for K kind of work. And so I just wanted to shamelessly plug kindergarten registration in this forum, just to try to better educate them about what it's going to look like. It's all happening face-to-face, the paperwork part.
Okay.
We did away with that and went straight online, and we were not successful. So just a little support getting through some of that initial paperwork, if you've never gone through it, is helpful. So that's
Do we
it.
put like an ad in the paper for that or anything like that? Okay.
We do every year. We run it 2 weeks. Giselle runs it. What we've noticed is most of our completed registrations happen over the summer.
Okay.
Because you can't really complete until you have that 5-year physical. So people kind of hold on. So we actually are planning late July and August kindergarten registration events to try and get those folks. We've never done them that late. So hopefully that's helpful.
Okay.
Is Jen having a heart attack over that? Not yet. Malone.
So that's the interesting part, and I'm going to turn it back over. But so working with our transportation company, it's the changes, if you remember in policy, is July 1. So we have to have all of our staff in the system so they can start routing as of July 1. So if we can get our families registered, it causes less change, causes less changes in post routing and all of that through July and August. But I will say we see a huge uptick in registration those first 2 weeks of August, which is really late. And we've already published, usually we've opened Skyward.
Yeah.
And the later I mean, you all know, being on the board, the later we hold on to opening Skyward, the more complaints you hear.
Yes.
And so, but part of that is, we know the uptick in registration, and that changes everybody's bus routing. So it's a
Maybe the bridge will be open by then at least.
Monday.
Moving right along.
Sore subject, sorry.
Dr. Farina, thank you for the kindergarten registration.
Shameless plug.
Let's talk about graduation.
So we have been talking, and we gave you a little bit of a preview that we would be talking about graduation requirements. This is really driven from a number of different things, most prevalent of which is sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. I've lost the ability to talk and, yeah, sorry.
We're here for you.
I just turned 50.
Whatever you need from us, Kim.
You're so focused on sharing the
Right.
information, you're just thinking.
So we have been talking about this for a long time because the state has, as you know, we talked about Act 158 requirements for graduation. They have talked about Act 339, which are college and career activities they want students to be well versed in so that they're successful when they head off to college and career. And most recently, they required a personal finance class for every high school student before they graduate, yes. So we've had the opportunity to work with Dr. Carpenter and his teachers at the high school, as well as this administrative team, and even, folks who have vested interest in high school graduation requirements. So we're here tonight to share with you what we hope to take forward to the full board and for approval in terms of what students would need to graduate from Upper Perkiomen High School. So just as a reminder, we always come back to this learning model. It's what we do every day, and I think it's important that we stay focused on it. And it really is about that pinnacle of student learning, portrait of a graduate, and how do we help our students graduate well, ready for what lies ahead for them. And we can't do that without our great foundation for learning, which we know comes with social and emotional and all the other pillars about MTSS. We always picture MTSS as an upside down umbrella underneath this. Like, that's how we catch all these kids and make sure they're getting what they need to be successful. So if you ever want to learn more about that, it's linked right in here. We have a whole little dissertation about what that learning model looks like and why we do that. I was happy to see it still in a lot of the principals' presentations for tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big data day for all our teachers across the district, so they're still sticking with that, which is good. I actually wrote down, or I printed this for myself because I don't want to take any of Rob's slides, so let me just make sure I'm on this one.
Good.
I'm good for this one. As I mentioned before, we talked about Act 158, which is the different pathways for graduation. Remember, the easiest and the best pathway is Keystone Proficiency. We have students, however, who are not achieving that. So if you remember, we have kind of a CTE pathway, we have an alternative assessment pathway, and an evidence-based pathway. We've been trying to build how can our students collect those pieces of evidence. And so some of what we'll talk about today relates to that. How do we best prepare them using Act 339 requirements? And those of you that sit on the Chamber of Commerce board with us, we've done a lot of work with them. Yeah, you were at the last meeting, Melanie. They're so anxious to get our students in front of them in their businesses, knowing what they do locally and being able to meet their needs. I mean, when I was at Knoll for Teacher in the Workplace a couple years ago, I think it was something staggering, like 66% of their workforce will be retiring within the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't have anybody in the pipeline who has the kind of history. Because these are people who have worked there their whole lives, so they know all of these things. They're not getting that same skilled workforce that they need. So they're like, we have a need, right? And we're the local pipeline. So these relationships are critically important. So when we say we're working on all of this as a collective Upper Perkiomen School District team, it is with the consultation and support of the local Chamber of Businesses, which again, every time I talk about this, I say how unique Upper Perk is in that way. Never seen anything like it. Yeah. And then Senate Bill 1243 is the one that required personal finance. So when all of these requirements come down and we're trying to prepare students for college and career, we can't forget they need choice. They need to have some choices in the classes that they're taking to ensure their career path makes sense for them, to ensure they're getting the classes that they need, finding out whether or not this is what they want to do, and then moving forward accordingly. So I will turn it over to Dr. Carpenter on this slide, because that's what
We
this
already
says.
talked about Act 158. I don't really need to, just kidding.
You're right, you're right, you're right.
So
I
it
said
starts,
we're
Act
script.
158 starts with our graduating class this year. So there's 5 different pathways to show college and career readiness, also to satisfy the Keystone requirement. the easiest way to satisfy this is number one or number two, the Keystone Proficiency or the composite score. The composite score is, their accumulated score, if you will, between the Keystone exams. If you hit a certain number, then you would satisfy this. But it's beneficial for some of our students who aren't great test takers. As you see, the CTE concentrator pathway number 3, that's for our kids who go to Western, and they're in a concentrated shop. They're going to come out with industry-based credentials. So that's huge. That's demonstrating that they are ready for their career of choice there. So that we're very thankful for that. Alternative assessment and evidence-based assessment, they are additional pathways where alternative assessment, I'll talk about that one first. Kids demonstrate their college and career readiness by another assessment. So they achieve a certain score on the SAT. Perhaps they weren't proficient in all their Keystone exams, but their SAT score was high enough. So that's demonstrating that they're college ready. ASVAB is another assessment on their AP scores. If they score a 3 or higher on an AP test, so that would demonstrate or satisfy that pathway. And evidence-based also is a combination of 3 artifacts that they would have to show, passing a dual enrollment class. I'm going to look at my notes here for a second. Getting an industry-based assessment, getting a letter from their employer that they have full-time employment coming up, getting a letter from their military recruiter that they're accepted there. So it's just a variety of ways to show that they're college or career ready. So,
Sorry, I turned that too late now.
This is our checklist.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is how we don't, in this screenshot, we don't have the 5th pathway, but this is what we use. To help keep check on our students, and we also use the help of Lincoln. So there's been some growing pains there, right, Sarah? But we're working with them. They're working with us. They're a great group, and we're getting through our record keeping with them. It's a lot to keep track of.
This is something that the counselors go over with the students at least one time during, their junior or senior years. They're selecting courses. This is one of the things that helps them make sure they're choosing a course that might help them meet a particular pathway. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, particularly with personal finance.
Thank you. One other thing to highlight here, regardless of what pathway the student is going to achieve for graduation, they have to pass the 3 Keystone Trigger courses, Algebra 1, Bio, and English. So they could be at the Western Center in their earning their industry-based credentials and demonstrating their career readiness, but they still have to pass those classes.
And that you can see that it's written at the top of CTE and alternative. It's also, if I could have fit the whole page on here for you without making it too small, it's also the first checkbox underneath evidence-based pathway.
They have to pass
You have to pass the course.
classes, no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah. And like Kim said, Act 339, that came out, I don't remember how many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
Even more than that.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, way
16, 17,
pre-
because it was the first year I was here.
Yeah, comprehensive guidance plan through the state, again, to demonstrate college and career readiness. Like Kim also said, we have a great relationship with the Chamber. Melanie's on our Perk Up committee. We're getting our kids out to visit local businesses and giving them opportunities to just have these experiences. Service learning, we have a community service class. Job shadowing, we do have a class where job shadowing is structured in our college and career readiness class. And we also use Smart Futures, yeah, thank you.
Because there's really 2 components to Act 339. It's show us the evidence that you've done job exploration just on your own with your own interests and abilities and aptitudes. And there are artifacts for that, which we've talked about before. When you supported Smart Futures, you need to show 6 after grade 5, 6 after grade 8, or in grade 8 and 6, and then 8 by your junior year. So Smart Futures tracks all of that. It's been a really great tool to make sure we keep kids up on that. And as Dr. Carpenter indicated, we're really trying to codify a lot of these specific experiences into courses, because we want all students to be able to have some career mentorship experience. We want all students to have some amount of job shadowing happening. We want all students to have some type of service learning. So we've put it into some courses. We'll be writing it into some of those courses, but we also will have the opportunity for students to take it as an independent study, you know, to make sure that they get that experience in there. We're not the only high school that's doing that. I think there's more and more. One of the reasons for that is it's really good for kids. You know, we talk about the relationship we have with St. Luke's as that capstone program. When students are going out for that medical pathway, they sit in lectures, they do rounds with doctors. That's tremendous. So that would be something like a senior year experience, or I wrote catch up or capstone, and probably both. There will be students who come to us late, who might not have the opportunity to do some of these things. There might be students who, for whatever reason, had a lapse in their schooling or just weren't able to complete things. Sometimes that happens with teenagers. We have the senior year to try to work that out for them. So we're really excited, as are our business teachers who are partnering with us on this. We have two who've been working really closely, our school counselors. So we're excited to be able to build that in a little bit more and make sure that happens. And you saw our last chamber meeting.
Yep.
It was like, give us these students. So we're really going to work on making sure those relationships are just a part of the everyday experience. So we're hoping to do that. This says tentative because we're still massaging the details. We need to make sure this will work with what the businesses have in mind for us. There are certain requirements by the state. So for example, career mentorship. Well, let me tell you job shadowing because I know that one off the top of my head. Job shadowing is 3 different experiences of 3 hours each. So it's a total of 9 hours, but it's 3 different experiences. Service learning is 60 hours. I think career mentorship is 6 total hours. And it doesn't matter how you do that. So just off the top of our head, we have to make sure what we build out in the community fits these characteristics. Now, for Act 158, service learning is only 10 hours. So we will have that option for students who are in fear of not graduating. They can do a 10-hour service learning project rather than the full 60. I'm sorry, I get really excited. Questions? Yeah.
This is obviously the bill that requires personal finance. What we're doing at the high school, we're recommending all students to take personal finance. 11th grade, Western Center students will have to take it as a senior. But what we like about personal finance, it's a dual enrollment class, so it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. We satisfy the state requirement. And then for students who need another artifact for the evidence-based pathway, they can get it as a dual enrollment class, passing the dual enrollment course. So we're excited about that opportunity.
We did find out from the state that students don't actually have to physically be enrolled in community college because there is obviously a cost involved with that. So as long as they take that dual enrollment course and pass it, it counts as an artifact for them. They don't need the college credit for it. So I'm going to flip back to this because I think, Emily, you were jotting down some of those. These are the actual requirements of things that must be taught in that course. And when we looked at John Williamson's current course, which is the dual enrollment Monco course, all of these were included. So that was good. The kids who were taking that were getting this. So that's what that is.
No, people don't know anything about insurance.
What did you say, Mike?
That people don't know anything about insurance, so if that's part of that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I used to teach high school economics, and they were like, we don't.
Yeah,
I used to work at an insurance agency when I was in 12th grade. I did a work study.
Oh, really?
And I worked for an insurance agent.
Oh, nice.
I actually understand insurance.
These are our current requirements. You can see on the right, our Western Center number is 25, and our standard diploma is 28. The different subjects that are required for each. Here are our proposed changes.
So what we are also working on, I think that's really critical for a lot of our students, and you all heard the PACE data, we heard it last month here, and the climate survey data, talking about how students necessarily don't feel engaged or they don't know that a lot of their coursework is relevant. Introducing change at an earlier grade level for students, I think, will help with that. They get to choose a little bit more of what they want rather than what they've been assigned to take. So we took the idea from this, a standard and a Western Center diploma, and said, you know, sometimes some of our kids who aren't at the Western Center really do have designs on career, but they're just not over there. And so taking the same courses if they're not college bound doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. So the traditional diploma would be very much like the Western Center diploma, although that's 25, this is 24. And then the Scholars Diploma, which we anticipate most of our college-bound students would engage in, is just a little bit less than, or it's exactly the same as what we have right now. So those credits don't necessarily change.
It's okay.
Go ahead, Emily.
With the Scholars Diploma, what are the opportunities to get college credits before graduation?
Yeah, we still have dual enrollment classes and we still have the AP classes.
And is there any discussion to bring those classes to have middle school students taking high school classes, be able to get those credits in middle school? That way, when they get to high school, they'll have the opportunity to take those classes, to take more college-level classes. Because I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, we don't award.
We do not.
Yeah. Is there a reason why we don't do that?
I think correct me if I'm wrong,
You know I will.
the transcript shows what is taking at the high school, during the high school years.
So
So
colleges,
we report on,
that's what
high
colleges
school.
want to see, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
A high school transcript, and I just said this to the kids yesterday, is gonna have everything that you do at the high school.
Right.
Your attendance, your extracurricular activities, every single course you take, and every grade you earn. So we're reporting on what they do at the high school.
So Emily, we did structure, like world language we brought down to the middle school, so they
Right.
could get to AP. So
Yeah.
I don't know if
Right.
that's exactly correct, and there are some honors classes at the middle school, so they could jump right into AP. There are AP opportunities in 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, so I guess, so if I didn't want to take 5 years of a language, I only wanted to take 2 years of a language and then wanted to focus on something else. If I took Spanish in 8th grade and then Spanish 2 in 9th grade, then what do I do?
I think, go ahead.
Correct. It would
Yeah.
not appear on your
Right.
transcript because it only reports out on high school
Reports on
courses, and
Spanish
those
too.
have to, I mean, we
Right.
apply for those
Yeah.
courses and,
But it will say Spanish 2, which begs the
Correct.
question, oh, they must have had Spanish 1 at
Spanish
some
one.
point.
Yeah.
But I also know a lot of the colleges won't give dual enrollment to 14-year-old students, so they can't really start earning college credit.
I wouldn't assume that. I guess, well,
I just wanted to make sure I understand the
My question is, so the math.
Oh, okay.
So say you wanted to take calculus in middle school. just
Or
as an example.
you're in, you can start taking it, we encourage advanced
Yeah.
math, if I'm not mistaken, starting in
Yeah.
6th grade, right?
Yeah.
So then these kids are taking advanced math courses
Mhm.
in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they get to 9th grade, they could
Yeah.
be there, you know what I
Yes,
mean? So
for sure.
then, if someone wants to be a math major, where are they going? And do they have the opportunity? I want to, I guess, we have these pathways which are fantastic for those who are not college bound. I want to make sure that we also have those pathways available for those that are college bound and are making as many opportunities as we can to increase that academic
so,
proficiency.
and in certain circumstances, when a student has sort of satiated our sequence, so they have tapped out.
Right.
And sometimes in math that happens.
That does happen.
Yeah.
Then we do allow and honor
College.
college courses.
And are we encouraging, okay, so,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I want to make sure we're giving those opportunities as
So-
much as
Right.
possible.
Our kids
Yeah.
are
Both
having-
ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're having those
Yeah.
conversations with their counselors, to be honest with you. Some students with GIEPs, some students not without GIEPs, and we're approving summer courses.
So
you know,
the
at
one-
colleges.
Summer course.
What,
The one thing
And
we
there's
don't
we have other
encourage,
options.
we encourage kids to take our entire sequence because those are our teachers and our courses. We don't want to displace them from our academic program, but there are kids who need an additional course or want an additional course, and we have historically honored that.
we've had kids pretty much be full-time at Monco their senior
Correct.
year.
And-
Right,
Half of their
which
senior
I think that's,
It's fantastic.
And our
yeah, and I
policy-
want to encourage that,
Right. Yes.
and I would love to see the reporting on that as well, and publish that, and you know what I mean, so
Yeah.
that the community gets a better understanding.
We have other scholar programs that we are partnered with Moravian and DeSales and Lehigh, where kids, if they get accepted, they go and they take that course, and that satisfies a certain requirement here for us.
Right, which is fantastic, yeah, and I guess
That's
my only thing would be if they're taking the high school level class in middle school, I feel like we should be giving them the high school credit to then open it up for them down the road to be able to continue to
They
take.
do have the opportunity to do that, it just doesn't show in their high school transcript. But of course, it begs the question, they must have taken it somewhere. So
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of
But it
AP math classes,
doesn't
AP
satisfy the number
statistics. AP statistics.
for math. you know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
Yeah, that's what,
I understand. I
yeah.
understand.
I can't be done with
Yeah.
math and start to go do other things because
Right.
you didn't.
Right.
but they
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
If they take Algebra 1 in 6th grade, they're gonna get to AP Calc
Yeah.
before their senior year. So
What if they
then,
decide math's not my jam?
Right.
And I did
Yeah,
my
year
math,
three, they're like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah, you know
out.
what, I
Yeah.
hate it, yeah, something like that, I guess that,
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. We are also, right now, we asked our math teachers to take a look at what other dual enrollment courses we might be able to offer in math. So a different type of a math.
Yeah.
We do have AP Calc, and then we have AP Statistics, Geometry, Algebra 2. So there are a lot of opportunities, but I see what you're saying about that fourth math credit.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
It's, yeah.
And that's
Okay.
a really good
And I-
thought. to
I
look
think
at.
it-
it's like the college algebra or something like that. And I'd like to have that dual enrollment to give our kids more opportunities to earn college credit.
yeah, right, and so I feel like, if I'm understanding you correctly too, we would have the ability to do that if we gave that fourth math credit, if we allowed.
Well, that could be their
that.
fourth math credit. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
in
They
the
could
college,
take.
right, okay.
Yeah, yep,
So
it does meet that
We
requirement.
have a teacher now who has a master's in math. And so that's the tricky part. To be approved for dual enrollment, you have to have a master's in that area that you teach. So we have that, so we need to explore, the appropriate course for our kids.
Okay. I don't mean to derail, I'm sorry.
No, it was a really good question, because as much as we are attending to those who are struggling, and we want to give them choice and keep them engaged longer, we do want to make sure we're cognizant of offering the right number of opportunities for our students who
Right.
are really into learning, which we do have.
Yeah.
We definitely have.
Or even if they're not that they're not into learning, but if they satisfy the requirements, and they're above average, and we could give them the opportunity in their senior year to be doing job shadowing or career
Yeah.
mentorship in some other field,
Yes.
that might be something to, so then they're going into college already having done an internship, so to speak,
Yeah.
and those opportunities, I think, are,
Yeah. And that is part of why we're trying to open up a little bit of room here, that the credits wouldn't be quite so daunting to be able to do some other outside
okay,
activities.
yeah.
Only so many hours in a day.
Yeah. So this is what we have come up with. It's not radically different. It's just really that the traditional diploma is one less credit, and it's open to more than just Western students. And then the Scholars Diploma looks very much like what the diploma looks like right now.
For the traditional, they can have more choice as juniors for electives.
And we will be adding more .5 electives. We've already had the conversation with English and social studies and even science teachers. Not a whole lot of .5 math electives, but we're looking at dual enrollment in that area. Just to be able to bring those types of things, criminal justice, creative writing, public speaking, those types of very interesting, high interest courses, .5 credit, so that they have an opportunity to do more.
And I think, part of this discussion is really, their feedback to us is, when we presented that, they're telling us like, hey, we could really use something more engaging or interesting, or I could see myself in this kind of career work. And so .5, half credit courses give you more opportunity and exposure to get those experiences.
Right.
Um,
And present a more well-rounded student at the
Yes.
end, which I think is important.
Yeah, this will bring about some competition, right? Because everybody wants the students to be taking their courses, which I think is a good thing. I think that'll push some innovation and some, I think that'll be a really good thing for everybody, for our kids and teachers, and bring a refreshed, competitive energy. So and I don't know what my next slide is. we really do hope that this helps our students be very prepared for everything, college, career life, all of those things. But I'm not sure if you had any other questions or thoughts. It's not a radical change. We're integrating the personal finance as a requirement. We're integrating government as a requirement for students as a .5 elective. It used to be mandated by the state, and when it wasn't, I think we didn't mandate it any longer, but it really should be. And you know, they said to us, maybe we could make service learning a part of that, like if it's really about citizenship. So what a great idea. They have some really thoughtful plans for what we might be able to integrate and do. So we're excited about it. Still some work to be done, you know, still some, you know, ordering of classes and making it all fit together and just making sure it's the right experience for kids. While we're doing this, we might as well do it all that we need to do. Might bring about some additional curriculum development, curriculum writing that we weren't necessarily planning on, but because of the changes, we might need to push that up and get some writers working a little earlier.
And just from a policy perspective, we do have 217 as our graduation, and there will be in front of the policy committee on Tuesday a recommended revision because we have to integrate the pathway into that as the mechanism with which kids can graduate. So the board will be asked to revise that policy to include the pathways in an acceptable way to earn a high school diploma. So. Other than that, it doesn't really spell out graduation. It's as defined by the district. So, but it does memorialize the pathways. So if those go away, then we have to
Start over.
erase. But so that'll be on policy on Tuesday.
So where does personal finance fall in math or an elective that's kind of no longer an elective?
It's an elective.
It's unlikely, but it's in the business
Mandatory
department.
It's
elective.
mandatory elective now.
Correct.
But
That's
it's
great.
business, right? It
I'm
would
so
be more
glad to
business
hear
than
Yeah.
than math, okay.
Yeah, it's a
Just
business
bring that
teacher
to-
who's approved for dual enrollment through Monco. The curriculum is approved.
Neat. Yeah, that's great.
Does anybody have any questions? I gotta run to my 8th grade parent night.
Good luck.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carpenter.
As Dr. Carpenter leaves, I just want to say that a lot of these pieces right here, Emily, to your point about getting them out and doing things, these would count in the elective category where we have 8 and 9 there. So these types of experiences, that college, the college and career readiness, career mentorship, job shadowing, they would count in here as elective. So that's one of the reasons that looks a little bit higher, because we want to get that integrated into their actual experience.
Well, that's what you're wearing a mask, so now that you like that.
Yeah.
No, I like this space. I like this space.
It's still a little bit of you talking about, so no.
Do you want to switch with me?
No, I'm not that immunocompromised. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
So if that works for you, it's the policy that would go forward for a change, not necessarily. I don't think this has to go on the full board for approval, but I can put something in the Friday memo so that everybody's aware of it. We'll put that slide deck in, do it with a little bit of an introductory information, and it gets approved through policy.
Okay. But it goes through policy and then it comes to the full board? No?
So you'll have to approve the
You approve the
revisions to
policy,
217.
which, yeah,
Yeah, which reflects the conversation of pathways.
yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't reflect the required credits because the state only requires 21 credits to graduate high school.
Okay.
So as long as you're operating at or above, you know, there are no concerns.
Okay.
But the policy does have to be approved and that
Yeah.
does,
I just wanted to make sure I understood it right.
Yep.
That's cool.
yeah.
All right, so what do we got? We got program of studies.
Yes, I had hoped Dr. Carpenter could stay, but I understand he has to go talk to a bunch of 8th grade parents. So every year we bring forward the program of studies. This is linked in the slide deck, which we will make available to you. And it has been updated to reflect the things that have changed. Now, because I don't want to read through 125 pages with
Thank you.
we took a slide to say, here are the changes. And so basically, as we were talking about how we're better meeting the needs of students, we're going to add a course called Conceptual Chemistry. It is a course that requires much less math to be successful, same basic chemistry standards. We do have a lot of students who struggle with chemistry because of the math component. So this will be a built-in, if there is math, it's built in with the math. We're working on this course. It's one that another teacher taught in a previous life, and so we're resurrecting pieces of that, and we'll write that together. We really think it'll help answer some of the questions and the needs and the struggles of students who are finding it very difficult to pass our chemistry.
Do they still have to memorize the periodic table?
They do, the whole picture.
I think that
There's a
everybody should
song.
have to.
And AP Physics 1 and 2, they're not new. AP did a huge revision to their physics program a couple of years ago, and we're just kind of catching up to make sure our courses are very much aligned. We've been teaching, Mike Turgeon's been teaching like the honors physics, which is basically AP Physics 1, so we're just aligning them correctly in the book and renaming them correctly, which is the same with AP Art. For a long time, we've been calling them 2D and 3D, and now it's Studio Art. So we're just, that's an update of a name based on College Board updating the name. And we updated the graduation pathways as indicated for policy, and the state continued to refine those. So remember the year they didn't have to take Keystones and PSSAs?
Yeah.
One of the pathways, as you know, is a composite score. So the only way you could qualify for the composite score is if you took all 3 Keystones. And so we had a lot of kids who didn't do that. So then they came up with a 2-test composite score.
okay.
So that's updated in there as well. Did I say that right? 2-test composite score. Yes.
Yep, it sounded right to me.
So there aren't many changes. I will tell you there's a lot of curriculum writing happening, but it's really revising existing courses and making sure we're aligned at the standard level with both the curriculum written document and the assessments, which I was just talking to Melanie about. That really drives a change in instruction. When you make sure the assessments are aligned at the right level of rigor, at the right level of the standard, which a lot of times they're not, just because of, things just don't always get revised. The curriculum does, maybe not always the assessments, so we're honing in a lot on assessments, which makes teachers uncomfortable. Which, it's a good discomfort. It's a kind of a productive struggle. Some are right on board and they get it and that's fine, and some worry because I'm not sure my kids can do that, and it's remarkable when you change the assessment and you teach to that level, your kids get there. Not all, and we do have to continue to worry about that and do our differentiated instruction and the professional learning that's happening, but there's a lot of good things happening with curriculum review and changes in instruction through professional development and other things. So that's kind of not a very exciting update to the program studies, but that's what we've got.
Okay.
But we'll take it.
Yes, yeah.
All right, what we got?
Yeah, pre-K counts. I can't tell you how excited we are about this. Dr. Roach brought it to us. He was approached by LifeQuest. I don't have this one. Lifespan, to try to partner with them. And actually, I was at a meeting that kind of was helping everybody understand what is pre-K counts. And it really is a program for our most needy families in this particular area. We would write a grant for 2 classrooms, potentially 1 at Hereford, 1 at Marlboro, or 2 at Hereford because the need's a little higher there. We're not sure how that'll pan out. They've already done facilities tours to make sure we have the classrooms for this. It would be bringing in 4-year-olds who qualify, and qualification is really based on socioeconomic status, who probably need a boost before going into kindergarten. It is a full-day program. Generally, it's like a 9 to 2. They come in after our kids or start before our kids and then leave before our kids. Lifespan, through the grant money, does all the hiring of all the teachers. They do all the it's great because we give the classroom and they do the work, and we're like, yes, that's.
So they're just using our space.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a little bit more involved. Obviously, we feed the kids. If there are some open time with our special area teachers, they might get some time to spend with them in the library or doing some PE activities. So, there's a little bit more to it than that. We do a good amount of figuring out what is the cost for lifespan and what is the cost for us. And then of the $10,000 we get per student, a percentage of that comes to us and a percentage goes to them for their personnel and things like that. So we are thrilled because, we know we've been running summer programs for kids since ESSER money came around. This is the last summer we'll have ESSER money for that. So unless we build it in the budget, it will cease to exist. This is a wonderful opportunity. We would have probably about, is it 18 kids per class? So 36 together, 36 students. They offer the spots first to our community of students, and then if they can't fill them, they'll pull from neighboring communities. I think we'll fill it. They provide transportation, well, do we provide transportation, or however we work that out? It's parents, parents driving? I don't even remember. I have to figure it out.
somewhere.
Yeah, they're getting here, yeah. So,
As long as they don't have to cross the bridge.
yeah. Exactly. Are you laughing at me? Because I was like, I don't know. There's a lot going on.
So this is during the school year, right?
This is during the school year, yeah.
Okay, so
So
you had mentioned that the summer program funds go away this year, but we're still going to continue the summer program.
If we can build it into the budget, it's not cheap. The easier way to build it in, that's more affordable, is not to provide transportation, which generally means kids don't come. Unless,
Right.
yeah. So it's
They have a
it's
hard enough
pretty
time getting on the
hefty
buses.
endeavor.
we thought.
The first year of ESSER funds, it was mandatory that everybody ran summer programming, and so we had money specific for that. The second year, I believe it was also mandated, that specific summer programming and/or after-school. This year, we're using our remaining ESSER 3 funds in part to make sure we can offer that again for our students.
Is there any talk about them continuing it?
Oh, yeah, they want to, yeah, it would just be a matter of getting it in the budget.
Okay. I mean, obviously, what we do, no, I mean, is any
Like in the state.
federally, at the federal or
Oh,
state level?
No.
No?
We're like, no.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Silly.
No, because it's, I mean, it's awesome, because
Yeah.
it's all, little kids that need the extra
Yeah.
love and attention,
Yeah,
right?
they
So,
definitely do. I will say this year too, Jeff and Allie at Marlboro and Hereford have done a wonderful job of bringing our local preschools in. The directors, the teachers, they're showing them Haggerty, they're showing them Foundations, they're showing them Second Step. Sarah was able to work with Devereaux to get some funding to give some of our local preschools, we hope, some material, so all the things we're doing here, they can start doing in the preschools. Again, for them, it's a funding issue, but at least they have the knowledge of what we're doing and the reasoning of why we're doing them. And then later in March, they're giving the opportunity for kids at local preschools and daycares to come and tour the kindergarten classroom. So
Oh, wow.
there's a tremendous amount of work being done to include them in what we're doing and to hopefully set all of those students up for success. But again, not all kids are in preschool or daycare.
Yeah.
And that's likely where pre-K council will help us because they can come free of charge. They don't pay a dime, families don't pay a dime for pre-K.
And it's 5 days a week as
It's
well.
5 days a
5 days a week
That's great.
for a
Full
full
day.
day, but like.
Yeah, it's like
9 to 2 or-
5 or 6 hours.
It is, it's just staggered, so the discussion, it's either before our kids come or after our kids come, just so that they're, because it is parent drop off.
Yeah.
It is, thank you.
And so, to get them out of the bus transportation
Right.
Right.
phase, so.
a 4-year-old sitting in school.
That's also good because they
Yeah.
also do, you know, like that's.
They get a lunch and a snack. They get lunch and a snack. So part of the work has been to work with Paula to say, what would it cost us to feed them? That's part of the percentage we would get from the grant. Yeah, so they get a snack and lunch. That's great, yeah. And you're right, but it's very much like preschool or daycare because that's, you know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
4-year-olds in a classroom, yeah.
Yeah.
With that, as far as the lunch goes, right, because one of the benefits of having less grades in the building is that kids' lunches are more at normal times. So with us feeding these pre-K kids, how is that going to fit into, does that mean like we could have like some second graders having lunch at like
No.
10 o'clock in the morning or anything
I
like
don't
that?
know that. I
Like,
won't say
anything
no.
crazy. But you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
I think,
I think that because, per building, it's really like a class of 18, I don't think it will displace or require any.
Okay, any additional sort of.
I mean,
okay.
I would say if there's inconvenience in time,
It
it's
is
not
only-
going to be.
Will we put them in with Jen?
Top 3
no,
No, we would not.
What, like a prison?
you imagine 4-year-olds with.
Yeah.
Yeah, put them in with the third graders. Let's see what happens.
They also will use gang bathrooms. So
Yeah, because it's only, you're right, it's only 18 kids.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, okay.
in March, this will open up, we'll get notification, and we have to say we want to apply for this grant, and then they'll push the paperwork through, and I'll work on that with Nicole and our team to make sure we fill it out in a way that gets us the money.
Okay.
We
Cool.
want it.
And you said potentially 2 classrooms in Hereford and 1 at Monroe?
No, it would be,
It's 2
it's 2 total
classrooms.
classrooms. We just don't know if it's going to be 1 and 1
Got it.
or 2 and 1, because it really is based on the demographic demonstrated need.
Okay. Got
They
it.
do surveys and all sorts of things to figure that out.
That's great.
So this is everybody's favorite thing. I've used this slide before. It's very busy, I know.
Very busy.
But we are transitioning to next generation science standards. I've been able to do the work with middle school and high school teachers, and the understanding is coming. It's very different. This is a very different way to look at learning. It's kind of 3D teaching. You can see it there, practices, cross-cutting concepts and core ideas. It actually fits very nicely with the way that we write curriculum using understanding by design, because we do have those big ideas and essential questions and why are we doing this learning. So it fits very nicely with that. What the teachers are finding right now is that the standards are very specific in terms of what the students will do. And you heard me say do, demonstrate, skill, it's a verb. So it really drives that hands-on learning much more than any other science standard has, because in other cases, I could give a test or a quiz and we could see if they know it. This is very much demonstrate, build a model, create an argument. You know.
Dissect.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. I have nightmares. So the teachers are doing a fantastic job with this. I recently had the chance to meet one-on-one or 2, groups of 2, however many are writing with me, looking at the work that they've done. And so far, we're rolling. Everything looks really good, and we're at the place where we're looking at assessments right now. And that looks different. That's a lot of project-based learning, and I love the way they're thinking. The bio teacher said to me, Kim, we're so worried about the Keystone, and yet we really want to embrace this. And so you have to know, there's that very strong concern that if we divert from what we've been doing with the traditional way we teach and looking at eligible content and looking at the Keystone exams, if we turn this all into hands-on, because the Keystone is not hands-on.
Right.
There's a fear about what that looks like then for our students and how their scores will be. And anytime you do any type of new program, there's always an implementation dip, and I'm saying that now so we all know, to expect that. But I do believe it will have the kids thinking more deeply, and I think that the way the Keystone and the PSSA will change, and that doesn't happen for a couple of years yet, is that they will be showing them data, or they will be giving them problems, and to the best of their ability, the kids will have to work something out and then choose the answer, similar to kind of like the math. That's the only possible way I think they can change the exam. So the more we have kids thinking and doing science, the better able they'll be to approach those problems. This is my pie in the sky thinking, and it's what I tell them to make them feel better, because we do want kids doing science. There's so much brain research that says when you do it, when you explore it for yourself, when it's trial and error, and you learn from that, it's stored in permanent memory rather than this kind of surface learning of I memorized and now I forget because I had a bad day. Yeah, coming here this morning. So I'm really excited about the work that they're doing, the questions that they're asking, and it's difficult work. I just want to say that up front. It's continuing. Next year we'll look to bring it down to K-5 because we have to. And the PSSA will change in 2 years, 2 years, from 4th grade to 5th grade. So right now we only give the science PSSA in 4th and 8th. In 2 years it'll be given in 5th grade and 8th grade. And we'll still do the Keystone Bio. So there's a lot of changes. This is a radically different approach. There is a link in here if you wanted to investigate further the next,
We lost you.
that, yeah, so that's not good. Why we lost me? Jim, why did we lose me?
Just dropped wireless for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a glitch in the matrix.
Boy, I was not counting down from there. So with the NGSS, right?
Yep.
So we're rolling that out, like, obviously, middle school, high school,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna
And
make
it'll
that
take a
part of it.
little time.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So, but this is gonna, my understanding of it is that this takes a lot away from, like, just standing up there and lecturing, right?
Yes.
And puts more emphasis on,
It does.
as you noted, right? So how is that being, I know you said it's being
Yeah.
received well, but also because
There are
maybe
traditionalists.
there are traditionalist teachers who do a lot of lecturing with some of the sciences. You know, take chemistry, for example, right? There's a lot of lecturing that goes into chemistry. So how do we get that buy-in from the teachers?
So there's really two things I would say. We had Dave Bauman in, who is the PDE representative for science. He's been there forever. He came in and did an initial training with our teachers at the beginning of the year, and his entire presentation was hands-on.
Okay.
And they laughed, and we have great pictures. And I will tell you, a lot of our science teachers, 6 through 12, are doing a lot of hands-on stuff because they're sciencey, weird people. No, I'm just kidding. But they do a lot of hands-on stuff because they're so excited to show the kids what it looks like and what it feels like. The other thing that we've brought in, and you've heard about this a number of times, is TLS, Teaching, Learning, and Succeeding. That's really getting the teachers to think more about small group and collaboration time together. So I would say it's not as common as it once was, especially in our classrooms, to see straight lecture for the full time in a science classroom. We have a lot of teachers who are working together. I know you're like, really? And I'm picturing the ones that I know. I may not be thinking of the ones that you're thinking of, who are really trying to get more in the hands of kids. And I will tell you that those that have volunteered to write curriculum are those that really want to
That's
do
awesome.
the hands-on stuff. So when that becomes the written curriculum, and Chris knows, and Brian knows, and Kim knows, and we're walking around and we're looking for that written curriculum to be the top.
Yeah.
So the conversations are much easier to have then, to say, hey, I saw this happening here, and did you do that already, or where are those hands-on experiences? So it's a great question, and it just takes time and consistency.
Now, this is the NGSSs aren't mandated
Yes,
or
they are.
anything. Are they mandated now? Okay, all right.
In November of 2022, Pennsylvania accepted the NGSS standard,
Okay.
so they're doing the rollover.
Okay.
Of course, they change things, just like
Right.
Common Core became PA Core.
Right.
They have, it's called the STEELS Hub. I can't think of what STEELS stands for, Sarah. So instead of calling it the NGSS Hub, it's the STEELS Hub. And they changed the colors,
The
so you won't
STEELS.
see orange on their documentation, you'll see
Come up with
purple.
better names than that.
I honestly don't even know. I
Science,
can't. So now we
technology.
have to continue to do crosswalks. We can't just use the regular NGSS, we do the crosswalk to the STEEL standard. And I just want to punch them. And they don't.
Strike that from the minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Punching a lot.
How do you really feel?
Clearly I'm wound up too.
So we are mandated to use these now, and it will impact the test of PSSA Science in 5th, coming up 8th, and then the Keystone Bio. And teachers are nervous about that, believe me, so we're trying to massage that. Truthfully, I don't know either. If we make all this hands-on, it's gonna be great for kids, but our scores might not. I don't know. So it's a big anomaly.
Well, it's tough with the
I'll tell them I
pressure on
told
that.
you that we're all nervous about it. They'll feel a little better knowing that that's out there. Okay, so we just wanted to tell you that. Our next meeting is March 16th, and we'll be looking at a lot of things, including early intervention, review of special education programming. I don't know if we'll have to do a graduation credit update. I'm assuming everything will be fine by then. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about what's happening with our standards-based report cards. In K, we introduced that this
Yep.
year. It's gone very well. Teachers are doing a super job and continuing to question. How do we make this better? I'm not sure this works. So it always begets more work. Work begets more work, because you want to make it better and make sure that it fits the needs of the students and the families as we communicate with them. We'll talk a little bit about digital content budgeting. When we were at home learning, we had tons of ESSER money thrown at us, and teachers were like, I need this, buy it. I need this, buy it. And so Jim and I, with his team and my team, and Sarah especially with Sharon, have been looking at what's really good for return on investment. Should we be purchasing these things? So we already cut back a little bit this past year because we knew we didn't have the same money available. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that next time. And then just some professional development updates, kind of forecasting ahead, because we all have at least 1 foot in next year already, which
Okay.
is hard to
Cool.
believe. Don't ever let me have 3 cups of coffee before the
That was quick.
I think you did a great job.
That's awesome.
You're doing great.
6:55.
You are doing great. Listen, they're grateful. I talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, no, this is good. Okay, well, thank you. Does anybody have any Any questions from members of the public? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion, opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good stuff.
Good, how are you? How you feeling?